All right, so today we're going to unpack a new standard on Ethereum that's trying to solve one of the biggest, and I mean biggest, roadblocks for artificial intelligence, the problem of trust. It's called ERC-8004, and the whole idea is to build the foundation for a brand new machine-to-machine economy. So let's get right into it. Okay, so just picture this for a second. Your AI assistant needs to get a job done, right? Maybe it needs to hire a specialist AI to analyze some data or audit a smart contract. How in the world does it know which AI is legit and which one is just a scammy bot that's going to take the money and run? And look, this isn't some sci-fi movie stuff. This is a problem today. And that trust problem, it has some pretty massive real-world consequences. I mean, just look at these numbers. It's kind of wild. Over 70% of organizations are trying to deploy AI agents, but only 11%, just 11%, actually make it into production. So what's the deal? Well, the biggest blockers are, you guessed it, security and the constant need for a human to double-check everything. This isn't just a tech problem, it's a massive economic bottleneck. So here's the bottom line. It's like trying to build an economy without any form of ID or credit scores. It just doesn't work. Without some kind of universal, verifiable way for an AI agent to prove who it is and if it's reliable, these agents are basically operating in the dark. The good ones have no way to show off their great work, and the bad ones, well, they can just disappear into the digital ether after they cause some trouble. Okay, so that's the problem. What's the solution? Well, this is where ERC-8004 comes into the picture, and you can think of it, quite literally, as a passport for AI. It's a new standard on Ethereum that's aiming to be that exact foundational trust layer we've been talking about. A digital passport and a credit score, all rolled into one, made specifically for machines. And, this isn't just some random idea from a few developers working in a garage. The list of who's behind this, well, it's a big deal. We're talking about the heavy hitters here. The Ethereum Foundation, MetaMask, Google, Coinbase, and they've gotten feedback from over 100 other leaders in the space. When you see a lineup like that, you know they're trying to solve a really fundamental problem. Okay, so how does this whole thing actually work under the hood? How does it create trust? Well, it all boils down to three core ideas, or pillars, that build that trust right on the blockchain. Let's dive in and break down each one. So the three pillars are actually pretty straightforward when you think about it. First, identity. Simple question, who is this agent? Second, reputation. Is it any good? Can you rely on it? And third, validation. For the really important stuff, can you prove its work is legit? You put these three together and boom, you have a complete on-chain trust profile for any AI. All right, let's take a closer look at that first pillar, identity. So every single AI agent gets a unique ID. And here's the really cool part. It's an ERC-721 token. Yep, the same standard that powers NFTs. What this means is that the AI literally owns its own identity. It's portable, it can't be taken away or censored, and it works with all the NFT tools and marketplaces that already exist. Pretty smart, right? Okay, so once an agent has an identity, how do we know if it's any good? That brings us to the second pillar, the reputation registry. And the best way to think about this is like a decentralized Yelp for AI. It's that simple. After an AI does a job, the client, whether that's a person or another AI, can leave a review, basically a score from 0 to 100. All of this feedback goes on-chain, so over time, the agent builds this public, permanent, and totally verifiable track record. But what about those really high-stakes situations? I'm talking about tasks where a good reputation just isn't enough. Like, an AI managing a multi-million-dollar DeFi protocol. For that, you need more than just good reviews. You need proof. And that's exactly what the third pillar, the validation registry, is for. It's a way to get an independent, third-party check on an agent's work with the results published on-chain as cryptographic proof that the job was done correctly. Okay, I know what you're probably thinking. Putting all this stuff on-chain sounds super expensive, right? All those gas fees? Well, the way they designed this is actually really clever. It's a hybrid system. Think of it like this. Only the most important stuff, the skeleton of trust, let's call it, goes on-chain. That means the agent's NFT ID and the basic review scores. All the bulky data, the detailed reports, the logs, the evidence, that all gets stored off-chain on something like IPFS, which is way, way cheaper. All right, so that's the theory. But this isn't just some white paper concept. This stuff is already being used out in the wild, unlocking some really cool applications. So let's shift gears and look at some real-world examples of what this makes possible. Honestly, the potential here is pretty mind-blowing. In DeFi, you could have trading bots that you can actually trust, because you can see their entire performance history. For DAOs, you could literally hire an AI agent to help manage the treasury. In gaming, imagine non-player characters that have provably fair behavior. No more cheating AI. But maybe the biggest game changer is that this enables open marketplaces, where anyone can go find and hire the best AI for a job based on its proven on-chain reputation. And again, I want to stress, this is happening right now. This is not theoretical. Huge ecosystems like BNB Chain and Taiko, which is a big Ethereum layer 2, have already deployed this infrastructure. It's live on their main nets. The groundwork for this new machine economy is literally being built as we speak. It's also super important to understand that ERC-8004 is one piece of a bigger puzzle. It doesn't do everything on its own. You've got other protocols for communication, how agents talk to each other, and other protocols for payments so they can get paid. What ERC-8004 brings to the table is that critical missing piece, the trust layer. It's the how do I know I can work with you part that makes everything else possible and, more importantly, safe. So where do we go from here? What does the future of all this look like? The potential is obviously huge, but let's be realistic. It's not going to be a perfectly smooth ride. There are some real challenges to think about. So let's get into the good and the tricky part. All right, let's talk hurdles. First up, Sybil attacks. That's where a bad actor just creates tons of fake AI identities to make themselves look good. That's a tough nut to crack. Then there's cost. Yeah, the design helps a lot, but putting anything on chain still costs money. And of course, you've got people trying to game the system. What stops a bunch of AIs from just giving each other 5-star reviews all day? And finally, regulation. This idea of a completely portable, self-owned identity, that might not sit well with some future rules. It's definitely something to watch. But despite those challenges, the big picture here, the ultimate vision, is just so powerful. I really like this quote from Davide Krappus at the Ethereum Foundation. He says, Ethereum is in the unique position to be the platform that secures and settles AI to AI interactions. And that's really the heart of it. The goal is for Ethereum to become the base layer for this entire new economy of AIs, and ERC-8400 is the key that could unlock that future. So that leaves us with the big question, and it's one I want you to think about. ERC-8004 is making a huge bet that the future of AI should be open and decentralized, built on a shared standard for trust. But will that actually happen? Will the world embrace this kind of open infrastructure? Or will trust just stay locked up inside the walled gardens of big tech companies? Whichever way it goes, the answer is probably going to define the next chapter for AI.